That seat is dirty. It is unclean.
I don't think anybody's in the way.
You would say that about anything.
Recording this.
It's unclean.
All right.
Unclean.
It is recording.
Don't let that poor guy in.
A bunch of stuff on my screen. I gotta move around.
Got your green card?
Oh, before club.
You fool.
Fellas, Summit CTF is this weekend. If you want to join, we have a B team open. Nobody has applied yet, so if you want to be. Sorry. If you want to join that and start that B team, you're welcome to do that. I'll have to ask Elliot if we got that one position open or taken for our team. If not, it might be open. Check the announcements on the CDC Discord. Other than that,
It's at Tech, it's in person, and if you need a ride, I think people can get rides easily, so.
actually, there is a virtual thing you can do for the first one.
Also, other announcement, if you haven't voted for me yet, you should. I'm running for SGA president, so
no.
you should.
Are you paying? Are you paying
Vote
for
for me
votes?
or else. Vote for him, I won't win.
Are you paying for votes?
I can't pay for votes or else
That's
I
a
get rid
sad
of it.
fact of life.
Well, I mean, I
lobbying.
can pay you if you've already voted.
Hey, if you could pass a bill, I'll lobby you.
You vote and then I'll pay you.
All right, so we'll get started on this. So today we're doing web app vulnerabilities. So common vulnerabilities to look out for. First of all, what is a web app? Y'all probably already know what it is, but a web app is a piece of software that runs within a web browser. It's accessible through a web server, so it's just a server connected to 443 or port 80, and it spits you back a web page. That web page will have some code on it that will run in your browser, and also links to images and stuff that the web page may need, and you'll request that. So of course, there are vulnerabilities with it. So common types of attacks. So there's a few of them. Cross-site scripting attack, so XSS, injection attacks, cross-site request forgery attacks, server-side request forgery attacks, and file upload attacks. Of course, there's many more, but that's beyond the scope of this one. So I guess we'll go into what is an XSS attack. So XSS, as I said earlier, is a cross-site scripting attack. It occurs when usually occurs when user input is not properly sanitized. So that can be either someone on Twitter, for instance, or X, whatever they call it now. Someone can type in stuff into the text box. It gets uploaded to the server. When someone views your post, maybe the website just concatenates it straight into the HTML and they can put HTML code into it. Issues that this causes is that if they can just put any arbitrary HTML code inside of a web page and have it run on a user's computer, they can inject scripts inside of that. So those scripts, they can inject JavaScript scripts, which can get your session tokens. So if you're on Twitter, the way that your authentication works is that your browser usually will store a cookie inside of your little cookies thing. And that cookie will just be your session ID number or whatever. It's something that's really hard to guess. You're not going to guess it. And pretty much that's you. Every single time you make a request to the website, you send that little cookie with that request. So it's like, okay, I got a request. Who is this? Oh, it's session ID, whatever. So that means it's this user. So I will get everything for this user. If I make any changes or anything like that to the page, I also have to do it. So like if I ever change my password, I have to also send that session ID token. So yeah, it can be an issue because you can run code in the browser and a bunch of other stuff. It's very nasty and not very nice. What is an injection attack? So injection attacks are usually attributed to SQL injection attacks. It occurs, of course, also when user input is not properly sanitized and is just passed directly to the database. So imagine, for instance, user sends the string test. On the database side, it could look something like this. So you'll have your thing. So say I'm looking up a user instead of like the little search bar at the top of Twitter or something like that. Select, well, it would say, I forgot it should have been select all from users where name equals test. And it's just directly pasting in test. Now, if they're not properly sanitizing it, it could output something in there, putting something like this, test, single quote, or equals 1. The database in turn will see selects all from users where name equals, and it's just concatenating straight in. And you'll see test or equals 1, and you'll see the colon, but then you also see that little extra quote still on the end. So you can just imagine it's just pasting it in. That might throw a little error on the server, but it'll still run everything up to that point. That can cause issues where you can pretty much access data that you're not supposed to be accessing, or you can authenticate on the site without even having the credentials. So like I could pretend to be another user when it's trying to verify the user, or I can try to log into an admin panel without the password, just saying, instead, imagine of users, it was password where password hash or whatever equals that input, or 1 equals 1. 1 equals 1 always evaluates the true, so it's always going to say yes, it's in the database or whatever. So the next one. Oh, did I might have accidentally copied and pasted this twice. Oh yeah, also, this does not only affect SQL. No SQL databases can still be affected by this, because instead of just inputting text without sanitizing it, objects also can be input without sanitizing it. So if they were to send a JSON object and that's deserialized, that can still cause issues. So just be sure to look out for that. Did I do this? Did I already do? Yeah, I already did cross-site scripting. Okay. CSRF attack, or a cross-site request forgery attack. It occurs usually when a strong cross-site request forgery token is not used. So what that is whenever, for instance, like you're submitting a form or something on a website, there's usually a little hidden field that would be labeled with CSRF token. And that's always passed with every single request that you send. So the reason that this attack exists is, imagine, for instance, a attacker decides to trick you into clicking a link. It could be, they could send you an email and be like, oh, you won $5, or try to use some way to make you feel like you have to do something quickly. Oh, your account might be compromised. Click this link to view whoever compromised your account or something like that. You click the link, and if the website has stateful change on a GET request, which you really should never do that. GET request should only be for getting data, never changing data. Use a post request for that, or put, or patch, or whatever else. But if you click that link, then for instance with this, https://example.com/change password, and then your new password's input in there. It's evil password. So they can change your password with that. They can make posts for you if you click the link. They can do all sorts of stuff that you don't want them to do, and you just think it's a link, and you're like, oh, I'm not gonna get hurt from just clicking a link, but you can if they don't properly do all that. So yeah, and they hide in the email or something like that. Now, on another side of it is a server-side request forgery. So instead of tricking the user into accessing a link, it's tricking the server into accessing a link. So a server-side request forgery attack, for instance, say like there's a user input of a link, like a database or something that you're passing into whatever website. I don't know what the case would be for that, but there are cases that it's happened with. So you pass in like, oh, here's my link to my data set or something like that. The server then reaches out to that URL to go access whatever data is on your data set or something like that. Now, the issue is if it's trying to access that data, it's reaching out to that URL. It can also reach out to URLs within its network, or as in this case right here, local hosts. So maybe you have something also running on that server and you're like, hey, can you grab something from this URL? I have this fancy URL called localhost. You should really check it out. It's called localhost/admin, and it sends you all the data from admin panel or something like that that you really should have access to. It can also be used to determine what servers' IPs are. So in cases like with Tor, where Tor would probably be used so that you don't know where the server is. Maybe you're doing some nefarious stuff with the server, selling drugs or something like that, which you shouldn't. But you could be doing that. A way to find out where that server is located is you use a server-side request forgery attack and have it say, oh, instead I'm going to input my IP address so that it pings me. Now I know where its IP address is located. It can also be used to find the IP address behind a Cloudflare proxy, which Cloudflare proxies can be used to prevent things like DDoS attacks. So instead, you're like, hey, Cloudflare, I had this server, but I really don't want it to be attacked by people. Can you take the brunt of all that DDoS traffic because you have all the resources for it and prevent that and protect my server behind you? And then whenever a proper request comes through, you just send it behind you and let it through. Now, if you say, tell someone, hey, there's a door behind the dude that you can just go around and break in and go beat up the dude behind him, it's not really useful. So of course you can prevent that by making sure that you don't expose your IP unless it's to Cloudflare or whatever, but not everyone properly configures stuff, so it's still an attack vector. So I guess now we will move on to file upload vulnerabilities. This one, I think Michael was talking about last time or the time before that. So this is very common with PHP, but it can. Oh, was it Mark?
We did the web
Yeah,
app with.
did he do the image, or was it you that did the image one? Whereas PHP, I think it might have been him.
Yeah, I think that was him.
But so it's very common with PHP sites, and PHP sites are still very, very common. If you have a WordPress site that's run off of PHP, and if you install plugins on that, it can introduce this vulnerability. Lots of ways to have this vulnerability happen. So pretty much if the attacker can find a way to upload a PHP script to your site, so say you have like some file sharing service and you upload images or something like that. If the user finds a way to send a PHP file to the website instead, even if you're like properly sanitizing in the browser, someone can find some way to upload it by, instead of using your browser, using something like Burp Suite and just directly uploading it to the post request URL. They can upload that malicious script, and when you access that URL, the server's like, oh, PHP file. I don't need to give it to the user. I can just run it. And you can put PHP scripts inside of that, and that can cause a lot of issues of reverse shells and a whole bunch of messes. So I guess we will move on to DVWA, which is Damn Vulnerable Web Application. It's a really cool tool. A lot of y'all at Radford definitely used it. I don't know if anyone else has, but if you've taken Joyce's class, you've probably used it at some point, but it's a very vulnerable web application that you can practice hacking it. So I will send in the classroom links, but I'll also just put it up here. So if anyone else wants to follow along and doesn't want to go on the Discord, they can. Let's see here. We're gonna use Try Hack Me because I found that they have a DVWA like cloud thing. So let's see here. I haven't done this in a while, so I may be looking at my little cheat sheet in the back over here. Some of it. So in my browser, so yep, here it is. So once you get to this link, you can see at the top, it's just tryhackme.com/room/DVWA. And once you get there, just make sure to start the machine. Hopefully this works. I know we always have issues with this with large groups of people, but start the machine, and then I think you should be able to open you start an attack box. It should give you a little environment. Oh, 1 hour a day. Oh no. Can I use Kali Linux instead?
I think both.
Oh.
We have two.
An option maybe.
Well, y'all go on that. I think I might just be able to attack it through a VPN that access machines. Okay, yep, I got open VPN. Let's see here. So I will do this real quick. Y'all should be able to, if you haven't opened this up yet, you have a free hour to use it. So just start up your own little machine. I will real quickly in mine. Open VPN. I get the file, please. Perfect. Okay. Sorry for stealing your laptop, Mike.
It's okay.
We minimize.
I shall sacrifice my technology.
So once you get your virtual machine up, you should see something like this. Now we got to put on our hacker hats and figure out how are we going to get into this system, okay?
Fucking no.
crazy hard password do you think, username and password do you think that they've used on this damn vulnerable web application? Any guesses?
Riley, what's your last name?
Nothing.
Riley nothing. Password is break dash sheep dash. Barn?
Server one.
I can't access, but I'm imagining that's what your password is on that assignment.
Drats. No, that wasn't.
Dang it. Oh, no.
Any other guesses?
My first guess worked, so if you want to have the answer.
Could it possibly be admin password?
Whoa.
They
Whoa.
would never.
Holy God.
You know,
I think I typed that wrong.
It's just not it.
Oh, it's caps lock, that's why.
it's so weird. It's so weird.
He doesn't know how to type on such an enhanced keyboard, you know.
It was just an
I'm in. Okay.
Oh my God.
So before we get cracking, the issue is we gotta do something. So I think you click setup and you gotta, no, it's not setup. I think it's down at the bottom of this. Yeah, security. You're gonna wanna go to security down here, if it'll ever
It
load.
says you allow everything.
It's right now set to impossible, so theoretically, it should be the best security, like you really should be able to break into it when it's on impossible mode. You might still be able to, but very, very, very hard. So we're just gonna switch it to low mode for now. There's different tiers, so it'll get harder and harder until it gets to the hardest mode, which is impossible, which you're not gonna crack
For some
into.
reason, he kept thinking like.
But say you can get through all the low challenges, see if you can get through the medium, hard,
So you can see.
don't even try impossible, you're not gonna get into that. Unless there's some like 0 day that just came out or some really recent vulnerability. So I'm gonna open my laptop so I can real quick see my cheat sheet, because I'm not gonna remember all this.
Just make sure I have it correct here. It's desktop.
So I guess first, maybe you can, oh, your mouse, your scroll directions inverted, you monster. Why did you do that? Okay, well.
Because it's the correct way.
So I'm gonna preferably try to do all the ones I can kind of do in a browser easily, because I don't feel like going through and writing scripts right now or stuff. So we're not gonna do brute force. I guess we can look at command injection. So this one, it's another type of injection attack. Pretty much all injection attacks are kind of based around the principle of don't trust user input. If you just trust user input as is, they can mess with you. So we can click on that. So we'll see here, it's a little, so imagine a web page to ping an IP address. So let's try
Alright, so now.
8.8.8.8, which should be Google CNS, I believe. Something like that. You should be able to ping it.
That doesn't
So
work.
we submit it,
I'm doing server one.
click submit, so I may have to click it again.
I think it just might take a while.
It might take a minute because it's a little slow.
There you go.
Second now.
Lowest
Oh, I
PC.
did it, okay.
Oh,
So you see it pings. IP address. Now, what does that look like? Doesn't it kind of look like the ping command?
Yeah, I think.
Maybe on the back end, perhaps they're just copying and pasting the user input
Yes.
into a command.
So I guess go
So-
back to.
Let's go and test this a little bit. Let's see here. I'm gonna pull this up and make sure I'm not gonna crash the
yeah,
server.
network access.
Danger.
So any ideas of what we can do?
I guess.
I'll let y'all think about it.
100.
Semicolon to end a command.
You should do,
Semicolon,
wait, what attack is this?
Another.
Some kind of.
semicolon, and which one do you all wanna do first?
Access, oh, command injection.
You should do alert. Use alerts.
Okay, so we're
Doing
doing
ampersand.
So I guess it's just so the command doesn't start getting angry at us, let's just do the 8.8.8.8. Let's do the ampersand wherever ampersand, oh, that's a weird looking ampersand.
It's a special looking ampersand. You know
And then now let's just try something like, I don't know, echo, hello,
Oh, what's all?
something like that. Should at least spit back out, telling us
it.
whether or not
Hello world.
you have entered an invalid
Oh, we
IP.
got a thing against it.
So it looks like that one might not work. Let's see, what else can we try? 8.8.8.8.8. Let's try the semicolon maybe.
Happening in there.
Okay, well, I didn't say.
Echo test.
You should just have one.
Still not working.
One input work.
Is there anything we can do with paint that can do that?
I'm pretty sure, let me see something. So 8.8.8.8. Maybe let's try double ampersand. Echo test.
Make sure my difference between one and.
Might just be freaking out to me.
Hold on one second.
Pull up this to make sure.
Server.
Read.
Oh, and
It could be something really stupid.
what's the difference between 1 ampersand and 2 ampersands?
I think,
To resolve server one.
pretty sure, like, it's just like one chains the commands and then one runs in the background. Don't quote me on that, is.
I want to check back on your security and make sure the thing that where you changed it to easy
Yeah,
actually.
I might not have done that. Boy, ugh, your scroll direction's throwing me off.
So that's scroll direction and you.
Oh, yeah, it's still an impossible.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There we go,
It says
okay.
glow, I think I just forgot to click submit.
So the
Yeah,
one
okay.
TCP, one should be.
Make sure you click that. Let's go back to command injection. Let's try the ampersand again. I'm pretty sure the ampersand should work. So 8.8.8.8. And echo, hello.
Well, shit, one was TCP, but both were
Me too.
TCP, I think you need to have one ICP, one TCP. Go back to
Let me try one first.
Google Docs.
So send it. It might take a sec because I think it has to ping for a few seconds before it responds.
Says.
Yeah, which is this one on.
So go back to your one.
So I think the single ampersand runs it like it spins off a separate like
Should be
program running at the same time, which is why it shows up before. I think if I did double ampersand, it might. So
Really
I
don't
don't
need
need to do ping. 8.8.8.8. I think double ampersand
This one.
will do it after.
He has this.
Or I'm probably completely wrong.
What happens if you don't add the .8.8.8? Did it go faster? Is it like?
Maybe it might.
It might just send an error message instead of going.
Do the desktop, make sure that one.
You do it right. I guess I didn't do it, but I guess we'll just keep using that single ampersand, which works pretty well. So you can imagine from there, I'm not gonna do it because we're gonna move on to the next one, but you can imagine from there, you can inject a reverse shell pretty easily. You can just do like telnet or whatever and have it connect to you from your C2 server.
Revshells.com, that'll like give you a bunch of example
What
shells that
URL
you
again?
can put your, yeah, revshells.com.
Rev. Yeah.
The numbers.
So yep, this is a great website. Pretty much it'll give you shells in like every language,
Just like fuck.
whatever.
I just have power like set up right there, but if you delete that power. you
Yes.
see all of them.
So yeah, you'll see it's like C#,
Shotgun.
Java, not every single one, but
Is
a
it
lot of
still
them.
on loading too? I think if you did all of them, it'll be a lot more, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot on here. Great tool. You can also just look it up. There's probably some GitHub notes or whatever for it.
You do break.
So I guess we'll move on to the next one.
Oh.
Let's see.
One test three.
Let's try.
Highlight test three. How many tests is there?
Okay, yeah.
It's like just. test.
So let's try to see what this does. So I'm gonna first Control-Shift-I. I prefer not to use Burp Suite right now because I don't feel like pulling that up. So we're just gonna use the fancy old networking tab and see what this does. So if I can remember to scroll the right direction. So an attacker would probably create their own account or something like that, just to test out a website to see what vulnerabilities might be on it. So they might be like, okay, let's check the password reset page or change password page.
Under your car.
So I'm just gonna change this to a really secure password, like, I don't know, password. No one's gonna guess that you're gonna be using password, of course.
You're in Zoom is.
It'd be too stupid, okay? It's like leaving a key under your doormat. No one's gonna check there. So we click change and see what request it makes. So you'll see right here, it sends this request. So
Should be in your blue network too.
if you ever see a GET request, when you make some sort of stateful change like this, I know it's a bad sign because that means I can just embed this in the little URL that someone can click
Oh,
and they'll run it. So you can imagine that I grab this and I change it to whatever password I want, so password or whatever. And then I package this up put it in like Google Docs, in like a little stupid doc file, send that to Michael and like, hey, here's this report. It's got some URLs I want you to click through.
I would click it because I trust him, and then he would break my trust.
He clicks one of those URL, the little links in there, just thinking, or on Discord for whatever reason, like if it's like, oh, yo, I imagine Twitter being very vulnerable or something like that. I'm like, yo, dude, like this Twitter post that I found on Discord. And you're like, oh, it's just a Twitter link, like nothing's bad's gonna happen from that. You click it and they change your password, they quickly go over, log into your account, change your email, password, steal whatever information off there that they need or want. Sell off the handle if it's a really rare handle, and they make a lot of money. And they make you very sad.
Yeah.
So that's how you can do a cross-site request forgery. I guess we'll move on to, I think reflected, let's try reflected cross-site scripting attack.
Or like DMZ.
This is the fancy one, yeah.
You get there, I think you could have named it.
So
Specific.
if you ever see like any sort of input on the site, hopefully they're sanitizing that input. So if you're on like Amazon.com or something like that, and you search for cat toys or whatever, because I love my cat and I want to give her cat toys. And then when you search it, you'll see like a little thing that says your search cat toys. It's taking your user input and giving it back to you. And probably at the top of the URL will probably say something like search equals cat toys or something like that. So now what someone can do is, for instance, they could try something like this. So let's do H1. Hello. And then make sure you close it off, H1. And if they were to send something like this, you'll see, hey, it's really big. That's not good. That means that it is just grabbing that, whatever you put in that text box and just pasting it into the HTML document, not caring what it does. Not good. So what that means someone can do is they can do something like this. So script. And then let's do alert just to demonstrate that I can run JavaScript. And if you can run JavaScript, you can steal people's cookies if the security on the cookies aren't good. Let's say.
What really?
Do
I want DMZ too.
If you want to get a reverse shell, kind of, you can create like a PHP reverse shell with this.
I don't think you can really create a PHP reverse shell with this, because it's not running anything on the server or on your computer. It's only running this in the browser, so I can actually show you, for instance, right now, you'll see, if I click on this right here, you can see it just literally copy and pasted that stuff that, throw me off. It just copied and pasted that H1 straight into the HTML. So when I run this one right here, you've been hacked. If I can finish it off,
Alert.
you'll see,
Connection terminated.
in the old script kiddie can do this.
Sorry, Elizabeth.
You've been hacked. Oh my goodness.
Back to my computer.
And I think it was located somewhere like here or whatever. I find it, if I scroll through enough, I could probably find that little script that just copied and pasted in. And your browser sees it, it's like, oh, I got this HTML page from the web server. I'm just gonna run it because I trust the web server. The web server's never treated me wrong. So it just runs that JavaScript script and blindly trusts it. There are ways that websites can protect from this. A, sanitize input. B, make sure that when you're using session cookies or whatever, make sure that it's HTTP only and that you're not letting scripts access it. Because if a script can access your cookies, that's not good. There's not many cases where a script should access your cookies unless it's maybe like if you're set up a WebSocket or something like that. But even then, there's other ways around it and you really should not be letting websites access your session cookies. Because if someone were, as you can see here, my name, I can copy and paste this link up here. I can give it to anyone in this room. And if I give you that link, you paste it in your browser. In fact, I won't paste it right now, but
I saw you scroll.
if you paste that in your browser, it'll just run that, the server will just give you that web page and you'll run it and you'll be hacked like poor old Michael over here.
Oh, God, Jacob, do you not stop?
There's also, there's more complicated parts of it that you can do with it, but I'm not gonna get into those right now. I guess we'll go to SQL injections. And then I think that'll probably be
Yeah, that's a
all that
good
I'll
one.
go
I
through
like
without
that
having
one.
to write scripts,
single
maybe
quote.
move on to something else.
It's a 5.
So SQL injection, I'm not gonna do blind. With blind injection attacks, you kind of just rely off of if you get an error code or not, know what you're doing. So like, I'm not gonna get any input back to me
Yeah, same one, yeah.
most of the time, so like I can just trust, hey, it probably deleted their database or something like that. So SQL injections. So as I had stated before, pretty much if you notice, all these attacks is don't trust user input. When you make, when I do, I don't know, user ID, let's do one. Submit, so one is the admin. So what if I want to get every single user in a database? How would I do that without having to enumerate through all of them? I can try using an SQL injection attack, which is actually still very, very common, surprisingly. PHP sites I've noticed have a lot of them because for whatever reason, people just don't like sanitizing their input on PHP sites.
Are you cracking?
Also, like sometimes if you ever get those little toll texts saying that, oh, you owe a toll, like $5 for tolls or whatever. It's usually some Chinese dude, I've on their IPs. There's Chinese writing inside of it. I found their other subdomains and all that stuff.
How would you make the firewall UI more
They aren't very good with security because it's probably just some dude that just bought like a little kit to set up his own little server with. And they don't really care about the security because they're just selling it. So those have input boxes. Maybe that some of them might have SQL injection attacks and you can maybe delete their entire database. So like, I've never done that, but
If you're feeling cool and stuff.
yeah, if you're feeling a little silly use. So as I shown before, like it's just copying and pasting the user input that's in the text box into the query to the database. So you kind of got to think of how that query might look. So if it's just getting the users, it's probably doing select all from all users from, well, select all from users where user ID equals, and then it's just whatever the user puts in, just copy and paste it to the end. So we know that the input's probably a single quote, whatever the input is, single quote, colon. So let's just try, I don't know, putting a single quote in there and seeing what it does. Single quote. Let's just try that right now. You'll see, oh, error in the syntax. If you see this, that's very good. If you get an error back, usually you won't get errors back. Sometimes you will.
Was I supposed to do?
So now that we know that there's an error there, what do you think we should try writing next? What queries do you think if we want to get every single user in the database?
Or 1 equals 1.
Or 1 equals 1. So pretty much, as I said before, 1 equals 1 evaluates to true. And of course, we would probably want to end it off on a semicolon. I don't think it'll work without that.
Maybe that other like. Actually, maybe not.
I think it might still work. So let's try this.
We just did that. I believe that worked.
Yep.
You might need like
Or
a way to comment out the other.
Yeah, so I think I can use hashtag. Yep. And now I got every single user that's in the database, and there's not a lot of users in the database, but from there also, if you know that if there's an SQL injection attack, you can start chaining other commands in. So I could probably do something like, I don't know, this is probably not a good idea, but close that off.
You guys just need each other for the
Task fives. All equals or something like that. I'm feeling like a silly goose.
Getting control S every time you do something.
I don't know if this is gonna work because I don't remember the syntax for it, but your caps lock. All tables. Yeah, no, but you could try to do something like that. I forgot the syntax for it.
Don't call me that word.
But you could drop all their tables, delete their entire database, start modifying their database, change people's password hashes. I don't think you're gonna be able to really change their exact password, but you can change the hash to the password if you know what the hash is, access their accounts and just breathe all sorts of instruction to their databases. And then also, like I said before, SQL isn't the only thing that is vulnerable to this type of attack. There's also a thing called no SQL injection, so I'm just gonna real quick do that. No SQL injection. And this is a very common one because not a lot of people know that no SQL databases are vulnerable to injection attacks, so not a lot of people look for them. With SQL, at least a lot of people hear about, oh, so my friend's database got attacked with an SQL injection attack, but this is still a very, very common way of doing it. So you'll see like the way, for instance, like MongoDB or whatever would be, is it uses objects instead of just clear text. And if you're just passing in objects willy-nilly, it can cause some issues. So you can do stuff like that, not equals, you can add not equals to it. And that can let an attacker do things that they're not supposed to be doing. But I think that might be, that's wrong site there. I think that might be all that I'll go over because the other stuff's a little more complicated. And let me look one more time. Yeah, all the other stuff's a little more complicated and might take a little more time, but with, for instance, the file upload one, actually I might do the file upload. Oh, that doesn't look good. I don't know if it's gonna work. Try it.
I will not install it, I don't know if it'll work.
Let's try actually, I'm not gonna do it. But pretty much you can just imagine upload a PHP file that's from this website with the reverse shell inside of it, so you put that in like, let's see, PHP.
I don't know what we did with
This
the,
one.
or we marked it on the, with the, over the wire.
Yeah, with like what we did with the over the wire challenge, you just put your little malicious I think this isn't actually the script, I think this is just the PHP command, but yeah, like something like that or whatever. Yeah, this. So if you use this or whatever, put in a PHP file, upload it to the server, and then you navigate to wherever your server decides to put it. So say it's a file upload server and it gives you a little page. It's like, oh, okay, your file has been uploaded to the server, like your image has been uploaded. It's an images/puppydogpicture.jpg. If I were to upload puppydogpicture.php and I had this script inside of it, it'll then, the server, when I access that page, it'll be like, oh, it's a PHP file. I need to run this. And it runs it, giving you reverse shell on the back end of the server. And from there, you can start doing privilege escalation. Then after that, try to get the root password, laterally move across the network and do whatever. And I think that's pretty much it for DVWA. Does anyone have any questions or anything? There's the other challenges, and I'd recommend honestly, like, this is a great tool. I'd recommend messing around with this a little bit. You can download it on like a virtual machine, mess around with it by yourself, or keep using this, or there's probably a million other websites that have it. But you can, once you get through all these really easy ones, which I think I've already gone through all of these before, you can up the hardness on it a little bit. Medium, high, and then impossible is just kind of the baseline of like, you really should be able to get into an impossible one. But these will just add a bunch more like realistic roadblocks. So with the cross-site request forgery one, it might add a cross-site request forgery token, but that token might not be secure. How do you generate that token? Maybe they just use the date. Maybe they just use your time. That's not a very secure token because that's very easily guessable.
We're not going to have.
So just knowing how to crack those is a good thing. And also there's a bunch of bug bounties that are like half of them are just about cross-site request forgery tokens. So if you ever want to make some money and you get really good at finding cross-site request forgery attacks, you can make some money off of it, but as a beginner, probably not. XSS attacks, those are still relatively common. You can protect against those just by just making sure to sanitize user input. Most frameworks nowadays should have some sort of function that can sanitize it. Of course, there are a million ways to get around this, but also just making sure you protect your session tokens is another thing that you need to be doing. Yeah, just make sure you're protecting your session tokens. Don't use session tokens that can be accessed from JavaScript. Make sure you set them to HTTP only. So that's just pretty much saying, hey, web browser, I'm giving you this token. I do not want you to ever tell the JavaScript that I have this token, and the JavaScript's never allowed to access it. I'm only gonna be sending this to this, you're only gonna be sending this to me whenever you send an HTTP request. No other time, no one else should be able to access it. SQL injections, those also just sanitize user input, and you're pretty safe. Most frameworks nowadays should have some way to sanitize SQL injection framework, SQL injection input. And then with no SQL injection, just make sure you read the documentation. Most of them have some way to prevent no SQL injection attacks. And the command injection, just don't be really piping stuff into commands on your computer. There's like, yeah, you can try to sanitize it as much as you want, but you really don't want to be giving a user pretty much direct access to your computer. And what other ones? I guess with the cross-site request forgery attack also, don't click random links. Like links, you might think you're safe, like, oh, it's just a link. They can still cause serious impacts. It's still a vulnerability that's very common and is found on a lot of sites nowadays. People can just change your password, make you post stuff that you didn't mean to post, so they can make you sound really racist or something like that. They can try to get people to buy your crypto scam or whatever, or they can just do pretty much anything with your account. If the website decides to, for some reason, have stateful changes based off of GET requests instead of POST requests, because the default method that browsers use whenever I search this website is it sends a GET request to 10.10.7.94, and it says, hey, I want this URL file or whatever it is. So that's sent to a GET request. It can also send POST requests. And with POST requests,
I think you should.
you're never gonna be able to click a link and it sends a POST request. I mean, sometimes you can do that, but most of the time, no. There's some little cases that I won't get into, but
Just do this here.
generally, if you ever make a website, make sure that you're following security best practices. But I think that's it. I don't think I got anything else to talk about.
Firewall that says that's active is going to allow anything.
What is the CSP bypass?
CSP
Turn it off every
bypass.
time. This ways to avoid this tragedy.
Security
by
policy.
Just turning it off.
What's it gonna do?
Same difference. Same difference.
I'm not familiar with all the acronyms and all that stuff. I kind of just know how to do a lot of these, but let's see here. CSP. CSP bypass. Yeah, so that's kind of like with like cores. So it's pretty much, so like, does the website allow you to request content from external pages? Yes or no? There are ways to bypass that. So I guess, let's see here.
You ran up on your servers, I'd probably do that. Yes. So ping server one.
So I think this is, might just let,
Server one. Yes.
See.
Server two.
yeah, so I think this is just like, does your website allow you to like say, like someone makes a post and they set the image inside the post to be like from an external website or something like that, that can cause some issues. So like if I set the image to an external website and every single time someone views my post, I can see who's viewing it and from where, because website says, hey, this person's image is on this website, sends the IP address, and then I can just log, oh, this IP address requests the image from my website, this IP address requests the image from my website, and so on and so forth. I think that's what that's about, but don't quote me on that. I think it's just getting external resources from others, like websites, so you could probably put like JavaScript scripts and all that stuff in there. I'm not too sure. But I think that's, any other questions?
Yes, because it's the website.
I guess we'll probably end it now unless there's something that you want to talk about. You want to talk about